Hello, Serendipitous here with another video for the TTRPG shelf. Here I've got the Keeper Rulebook and Investigator Handbook for Call of Cthulhu 7th Edition by Chaosium. I got these books for Christmas. I've been wanting to run and or play Call of Cthulhu for quite a while. I have played, I think, one or two one-shots in past years, so I know basically I'm slightly familiar with its D100 system and everything, but yeah, I'm happy to actually have these really cool physical books. And also, you can tell the books are fancy when not only do they have a fantastic hardcover, but they have bookmarks as well. So that's really cool. But yeah, so this is basically if you want to make comparisons to D&D books, we got the Investigator's Handbook, which is basically the Player's Handbook, and the Keeper Rulebook, which is pretty much like Dungeon Master's Guide and Monster Manual. I don't remember if there are monsters in here necessarily, but this is for keepers or game masters, and this is for players. But yeah, I'll start with this. I haven't taken a very good look at these books quite yet. I've kind of flipped through them a little bit before, but yeah, this basically this talks about how to create your investigator, creating your character. One thing I really like about Call of Cthulhu is just like the wide range of like occupations. Like you can really create whatever character you want. Really, this just kind of like gives you you're not really necessarily limited to even this list, because these are just sort of suggestions. Like if you want to make like an animal trainer, they said here's how you can they suggest you kind of put your occupation skill points in these things, be more proficient in these skills, suggested contacts, and so forth, right? And then if there's something on here that's not listed, you can just find something that's similar and see, okay, how many, like your credit rating, how rich you are, and things like that, and so forth. And I think that is really cool. Like your character can really be like anybody and anything essentially. It talks about what each of the skills mean and so forth. And by the way, by the time I'm recording this video, I have been reading comments and everything, and I had one comment in one of my D&D book videos about how someone was nervous about how I turn pages, that I might rip them or something. So I apologize for making you nervous, but as far as I know, I've been okay. And even if I do rip something, that's I guess that's the mark of a good book, that it's well used, right? Obviously, I'd like to try to keep these as nice as possible, but if something happens, then that's yeah. Not much I can do about that. The Roaring Twenties, yeah. So usually Call of Cthulhu games are played in like the 1920s, 1930s, usually 1920s, because it's a very interesting time of again, Roaring Twenties, Prohibition, World War II is over. There's a lot of there's a lot of luxury and partying and all kinds of other crazy things as well. 1920s is also when you start getting film starts getting more and more popular. 1927 is when you have the first talking film, and yeah, I appreciate that they go into history and stuff, so you can kind of learn, and so that as a player and as a keeper, you can play the game a bit more. Obviously, you don't have to play Call of Cthulhu in the 1920s, but there are definitely books and adventures of Call of Cthulhu that are set before or after that time period. I've seen a lot of adventures that are more in the modern 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, whatever. But this is the most popular time, because that is when H.P. Lovecraft and his contemporaries lived. And so I think that's probably one of the main reasons why that they do that. I do appreciate, by the way, I paused here because I noticed other notable libraries and museums, overseas libraries of note. Notable libraries and museums. Obviously as a librarian, I appreciate this a lot, because a big component of Call of Cthulhu, Call of Cthulhu Adventures is information gathering and relics and forbidden relics and books being kept in archives and stuff like that. right? I think that's really cool. That's probably one of the reasons why I love the podcast, the Magnus Archives, which I am very excited for the RPG to come later in 2024. Very, very excited about that. Advice for players, excellent. So yeah, obviously it's a pretty meaty book, over 200 pages. But again, it's just like most large TTRPG reference books. It's not meant to be read front cover to cover. It's meant to be reference. It's meant to be like like in a dictionary. You don't read the entire dictionary. You just look up the information that you want or need, right? And this is fantastic for that. Oh, nice. So okay, so they have stuff for they have like prices for potential prices for different things. Yeah, even like modern day things as well, to kind of give you an idea of how much things cost. The stats for various weapons. And this is fantastic. This is all the player's handbook essentially. Yeah, converting from previous editions of Call of Cthulhu. I don't really care about this because I've never really played anything from older editions. Like I am just kind of introduced to this in 7th edition. So yeah, ooh, these are lovely maps. Wow, this is fantastic. And then yeah, index. What is back here? Okay, yeah. So you can like print various print character sheets, stuff for backstories. Okay, yeah, Kickstarter backers. The art is fantastic as well. And probably just like a bunch of ads after that. Okay, Investigator Handbook, Chapter 10, reference. Oh, right, never mind. More Kickstarter backers. Like, these lists are always pretty long. And yeah, sort of like, little advertisements of other things they have and stuff like that. But yeah, cool. That's the Investigator Handbook. This is what would be used to help players create their investigators. And then the Keeper Rulebook is much thicker. So here's sort of a comparison here. Yeah. So, yeah, again, I haven't looked very deeply into either of these books, but I'm just really happy to have these. Never played a role-playing game before. Here's what it means, and all that kind of stuff. Talked about H.P. Lovecraft and and everything. And yeah, I do understand that his opinion. He did have extremely problematic opinions and everything, which fed into the whole horror thing. But I am grateful that in general, it seems that horror writing now avoids the more problematic tropes and and just sort of like and kind of focuses more on again the cosmic element of things, which is what I'm more interested in. Just sort of like what strange mysteries are out there in the universe, and things like that, and how do they treat humanity in general, not just like different sections of humanity, but all of it. Yeah, I before I ever run a new Call of Cthulhu session, I would need to do a lot of review of this book because again, I remember a lot of the basics. Like I know how the basic D100 system works. For a skill or for anything, you roll two D10s, and then one of them being the 10s and one of them being the 1s, of course. And then you're trying to roll under a number in the D100 system, if memory serves. So, for example, if your skill, if you have like a firearm skill that is at 35, then you're trying to roll 35 or under, or is it under 35? I can't remember about meeting the number, but you're generally trying to roll under 35. So you generally have a 35% chance of succeeding. I think that's kind of cool. So you just look at the number, and that's your odds of succeeding something, basically. Yeah. So explaining rules for sanity and things like that. Magic. Yeah. So unlike D&D, Call of Cthulhu is very much the more powerful you get, the weaker you get, kind of a thing, because because magic and abnormal abilities really come from these dangerous cosmic entities, right? And the closer you get to the cosmic entities, the more crazy your character gets, and the more like kind of the less human your character gets, essentially. And so with D&D, D&D is very much a power fantasy, right? It makes sense. It's there's this positive feedback loop where you might start at level 1 or level 3, or you start at a low level, you fight some low level monsters, you get experience, you level up, and you get more powerful, as you can handle more powerful monsters and can keep going that way. But here in a Call of Cthulhu game, generally the ending for your investigators and your characters is probably going to be either they leave with their sanity intact, but not necessarily learning everything there is to know about the mystery. They go crazy or insane, or they die or are obliterated by cosmic horrors in some way, and things. It's just like, it's just a descent into just all kinds of badness. The further you go, and it's a lot of it is about just sort of like the journey, the mystery, the investigation, if you will. I love that characters in this game are called investigators, right? Okay, yeah, here we go. I guess this is kind of like a bestiary sort of, monster manual, if you will, essentially. Colors out of space. Yeah, obviously a lot of references to Lovecraft's books, but also as well as other things. My favorite like book or story from the Cthulhu mythos is The King in Yellow. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that The King in Yellow is based on a play, and I was definitely a theater kid in high school, and I still love theater and plays and things like that. So having sort of like this crazy, like insane, like this play that drives you to insanity is interesting to me. Scenario. So they have some sample adventures back here. So it's just sort of like to get you started. Basically, which is fantastic. I always love a good TTRPG book that is self-contained and gives you a couple of adventures to start off with, basically. Glossary and more reference things in the back of the book and everything. So to run the game, I probably really only needed the Keeper Handbook, but I also did want the Investigator Handbook because I figured, it's good to have all the good information for both players and for keepers in this case. But yeah, I'm very happy to have these physical books. I don't really have any TTRPG groups right now that might be open to. I mean, they might be. Some people I play with might be open to playing Call of Cthulhu. I'm sure they would, but we're currently in like various campaigns right now and things like that. But I'm happy to have these, and so when I am able to run or play Call of Cthulhu, I have these fantastic, high quality books. These kinds of books with a very nice hardcover and even little touches like a bookmark are my favorite kinds of TTRPG books. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, all the best.